I don't know how many though, but we'll find out. This is probably the hardest kind of course I've ever taught. I don't know who's in it or whether they're actually keeping up or not. It's amazing. Okay, let's talk about the final a little bit. In the final, you can have anything you want to take with you. You can have a computer, notes, cell phone, anything. But you can use anything that's already down, but don't ask people questions. In other words, just don't ask anybody anything. That's the whole point. Don't get involved with communicating with people. Other than that, you can use any resource that you have available to get that stuff. I think that the website contains everything you need, really. But the question is, you have to, in your mind, you have to organize that's what I hope to do next week, is to break it down into the different things we've covered. And unfortunately, it's not that easy because everything we cover, there's always some little things in it along the way that are changing also. So I won't be able to cover every single thing that we do because it's just, there's too much. It's like a whole course. But what I'll do is I'll break it down into its components and then kind of tell you what things, the exam's already done, by the way, it's already written. There's two of it, one's written already. So the thing is that I'll tell you what has to be done, what you have to know about, and what your whole job then is to, if you don't see it right away what has to be done, you can go right to the web page and you can figure out from the programs that are there what has to be done. And that's all there is to it. It's really that simple. The exam's got 50 questions, approximately, maybe 49 questions, one worth 2 points. But it's got 49 questions, and they're like, a lot of them are true or false, fill in the blanks, that kind of thing. I don't have you write any code except for, the only code I have you write is I have a couple of lines that say this is what they are now, but this is what you want to do, so change them so they'll do what you want to do rather than what's being done. And so essentially all it does is it just finds out if you look at code, kind of figure out where we do everything, so you kind of know how it works. And that's the point of it. I'm not going to have you write any new programs or anything like that. I think this exam, if you really know your stuff, you could be out here in 20 minutes. But if you have to look stuff up a lot, it'll take you a little bit longer. You guys all have computers, I assume you have one. So you'll all have computers here, laptops, and that'll be good. And you guys online, if you come into class, bring a laptop if you have one. That would be good for you. Any notes, you can bring anything you want, but do not communicate. Or don't use your screen to show your pal behind you what the answer is. Not good form. Okay, so those are the things that other teachers, that's why they don't allow people to do stuff like this, but it's worth the risk. If it makes the course run smoothly, it's worth the risk. Today, what I've done is I have a couple more things I wanted to show you, because you can make a three-dimensional space, but what do you put in it? You have to put stuff in it. One way you can get stuff is you can go online, and I think there's one called Turbo Squid. I think it's called Turbo Squid .com or something, and they have zillions of things you're going to download. I mean, they have all kinds of people put stuff up there, but they sell them. But they sell them anywhere from free to a lot of money. So basically, you have to be sure what you're getting is what you want, and it works. I paid for a couple of things up there, and they were good. I paid like maybe $5 or something for something, and it turned out to be okay. But you get what you pay for. If you get a choice, for example, I wanted the Eiffel Tower. If I wanted the Eiffel Tower, I can get a cheapo one free that doesn't hardly look like the Eiffel Tower at all. It looks more like a a coat rack or something. But if you get the real Eiffel Tower that's really done in detail, it's like $300. But that's the Eiffel Tower. I mean, it looks very real and it does everything. So if you were in a commercial, if you were in a job and you wanted to do something like this, you could go to Turbo Squid and they'd have whatever you want practically. But if you wanted characters, they also have characters. They have people, they're teachers and doctors and lawyers and garbage men and everything. They have all kinds of people. So you can actually download those also and use them in the program. If you want to build your own people, I put a program online where you can build your own people. That's on today's website. And I'm having a little trouble with it still, and other people have had too. but I think I can fix it, but I have to deal with it. The problem with it is this. There's all these different companies are all talking to each other. They're all, like one will let you design a character, one will let you learn how to move it, and the other one will have the actual movements in the thing. So all these different things are all working together, and they're storing stuff in the same files. And the question is, how do you get a character that's got everything you need and does what you want? You have to reach out here, and grab all this different stuff. Well, the problem is that they all deal with file formats. They all store the stuff in files. And the trouble with some of these small companies, like the one with the bodies, for example, they don't follow the format exactly. They have their own twist to it. And the trouble is, what we're doing, the way we bring characters and everything like that, we're using a standard format. We say, come in, and it assumes everything's standard. And when something comes in, it's got the wrong letter in it, or it's the wrong number or something, then all of a sudden the program doesn't know how to deal with it. It can't deal with the stuff. So that's what I'm dealing with right now, is that most of the general stuff works good. You can bring a character in, you can design a character, bring them in, everything like that, but you can't get his eyeballs to show. All the weird things, that's the one problem it's having. The eyeballs won't show. And I looked into it last night, and I was looking through the thing, physically looking through it, and the eyeballs are in there backwards. However they did it, the eyeball is pointing inside the head, and I don't know how they did it, but they... So what I have to do is figure out the code to make it go frontwards again and get at that code. If it becomes too complicated, where you have a data file and you have to change stuff in the data file, you won't have to do that. What I'll do is I'll write a program that'll say fix this. And you run fix this and it'll fix it for you. So then it'll run. So in other words, you download what you want, run fix this, it'll line it up for you, then it will run okay. But I might not get that till the end of the semester. But like I say, these things are all going to be available in better form even next semester for you guys if you want to just go back and pick up things. But the 3D graphic stuff is going to expand a lot more. I don't know how you feel about this, but I like to talk about how the course develops because I'm always developing it. But I'm going to leave off, next semester, I'm going to leave off Canvas. Now you remember, we did stuff, we made animations and everything on the web page. Then we went to Canvas and did a few things in there, and then we came to the 3D world. The trouble with the Canvas is that it's a big ordeal learning how to do it, and even the stuff I've written to simplify it, still you say draw this, then you got to put in a bunch of numbers, and it gets really too much. So basically, I think rather than waste a lot of time in that, what I'd like to do is get people totally ready for the 3D thing, and then go into the 3D thing and spend more time with that and do it right. So you actually can create 3D pages that are web pages. I don't know why the world isn't ready for this yet, but I think it's because the language is still evolving and complicated. But eventually, every page you go to will be 3D. They're not going to stay with what they've got now. And I mean, obviously, you're not taking advantage of the computer by staying in a flat 2D world. It's like a piece of paper. You're not doing anything. You can make animations like that, but you can't really look in there or look around. You can't really do anything. So that's on its way out. So I kind of hope that every time this course always gets you ready for what's possibly going to happen next, even if you're not a specialist in any kind, because in any job you're in, especially if you're in movies, film, I mean, all those things are constantly moving in this direction of 3D animation, computer graphics and everything. And the best thing you can possibly do is, even if you can't write the code, you can actually write some code and do some things. You can actually make some things happen. The more you can make happen, the better. But you know, I've discovered something about all these simplifications. In the beginning, when we were doing graphics, we used to have to write the code, a line of code to do everything. Turn the light on. That's what we would say right now. But in those days, we have to say, put this object in this location, and turn its ambience up this much, and turn its materials up that much, and we'd have to tell it a dozen different things just to make it do something, okay? And what they did is they refined it down to turn the light on. Well, that was okay, but you have to turn the light on, bring in the character, make the character walk, put the background in, do this, and pretty soon you got all these pull-down things all over the place. And you got as many of those as there were programming lines originally, because you have to accomplish the same thing. So what I've discovered is as the evolution of the computer is taking place and people are getting more into it, we've gone from a stage where we did all the technical computer stuff ourselves to now we pull down a bunch of menus and make the stuff happen. The trouble with pulling down the menus is they never do it the way you want them to, and you have no control over the companies that make these pull-down menus. So the whole object of this exercise here is to get you familiar with just with the idea of seeing code, seeing what code does, so that when it comes time to do this in the future, which I believe will happen, we won't be having to write it in basic code, and we won't have to be doing pull-downs. We'll be able to do something in between to create the stuff exactly as we want it, but not be pinned to some guy's idea of how programming works. And believe me, those guys have some weird ideas about how programming works. So, in the end, what I'm kind of hoping is that this sort of preparing you for that in-between place, which is, there's a big, it's not like I'm inventing it or anything, there's a lot of people out there doing it now, but I don't think we're bumping into it because I think they're still in the stages of trying to figure out how to do it. So, when you come away from this course, what I kind of hope that you get out of it, besides the grade that you want, is some experience seeing code in action, seeing these things done, and having a residuum, a place that you can go to look at the stuff again if you want to look at it and steal stuff or whatever you want. Don't forget, this is the only course where plagiarism's a virtue, so to speak. But it's got to be plagiarism of my stuff, not somebody else's. That brings up a point, though, by the way. We used to have a course in one of our courses over at CS. Now they do it in philosophy. We had a course in plagiarizing, not plagiarizing. And you got to be really careful when you take stuff off the web. If you take someone's music or their art or anything off the web and you use it in any kind of commercial venue, because what they'll do then is they may, if they're nice to you, they'll just say, stop using my stuff. If they're not nice, you have a lawyer letter saying they're going to sue you. So there is a danger out there of people putting stuff on the web that's copyrighted and you just using it. You can't really do that. But a lot of stuff is open source. I mean, for example, supposing you have some company called Albedo Film Company, and they have little short strips of film, and they charge like $20, $30, $40 for their little short strips of film. But then they have a demonstration thing, which you can take down free, and it says Albedo right on it. I've used a few of those in our programs, and that's okay. Then you can do it, because what you're doing is, this is their demonstration piece that you can use for anything. And by the way, there is a difference too. If you're using it academically, if you take another course and you do something like this, that's perfectly fine. When you really get in trouble is when you're doing it commercially and you're basically trying to avoid, they're trying to sell this stuff and you're making money on their stuff and you're not giving them any. So that's something you should think about when you start doing business with this kind of business, with this kind of stuff. threejs is free. Everything we do, all the stuff we do is free. The program I sent you to this week is free. XView is free. All those programs are free, and they're public use, general use, so you don't have to worry about them. But if you start getting pictures and music and stuff like that, then because artsy people, it's hard to make money as an artist, so they don't like any of their stuff to be used unless they get some money for it. So they're going to be more more aggressive in their copyright. Anyway, that's about it. I just wanted to wind up that part of the course and talk about it. Today what I had is I created a video to show you how to do it, how to access this anatomy program, how to build characters. I didn't show you all the details because you can look at this program itself. I mean, you can look at it. It's got words on it. How to make the hair, how to make the eyes, how to make this. And if you start pulling these sliders around, you'll see the character doing whatever you want it to do. You can construct the character in front of yourself. As you move the sliders, it makes the character do it and dress them up different ways. So that stuff is fairly easy from that program. Then when you save it, I did make a point of saying you have to save it this way for us to use it, okay? And that brings up a different issue. When you save it for our purposes, what you're saving is a character that has clothes on and has eyes and it's supposed to have all the different parts, but they're just standing there. You can have them stand in different positions, they have different poses. But you can put them in your webpage. You could have them dress any way you want. There's a lot of different varieties of dressing. You can put them on the webpage so you can have a character, a human character in the webpage. You know, when I was a kid, all the department stores in New York and all these cities around the country used to have store windows. You'd walk down the street and they'd have this giant store window. There was about, you know, maybe 20 feet this way and 10 feet deep. And they'd have all these characters standing around with their stuff, you know, selling their wares and everything, all mannequins. In a sense, this is the same thing. In a sense, you're making a little store window, and you can put anything you want in it, and for people to see when they come in. The only difference is, with the store window, we used to stand in front of the glass and look into it, but with 3D World, of course, you can have them go in and they can look behind things, and they can look at signs more closely, and they can do stuff. So it's a little advantage over the store window. If someone's selling some kind of products, you could actually have, you know, signs in there. You could have different rooms. That you can do anything you want. And it's not that hard to do. It's fairly easy to do, to take these, you know, these rectangles and build walls. You can build a hallway, you know, you can build a big room and a little room off it. You can, using just these rectangles, you can build anything you want, just like pieces of plywood. And so you could conceivably build a whole place where, you know, people can go and look around, and then you can make those walls impenetrable so they can't walk through them. So it gives a sense of realism. So they aren't just you know, dropping into this thing and just seeing it's an artificiality. So you can sort of give a sensation, at least, of realism. And I think that I think that that's probably something that, you know, any organization or any business could use to promote its on a web, for the web, to promote its what it does. Well, I guess that's just about it for that stuff. I'd like to do is, I'd like to just go straight to the video and talk about it, because the stuff we're doing now is too hard to talk about with diagrams on the wall, except for a couple of things I should tell you before I start. What I want to do is, because we're using these objects, we're bringing these objects in, no matter if we bring them in from Blender where you make it, or if we bring it in from this anatomy program where we're going to make it. Well, there's other programs that make other things too. We can bring them in from different directions, but they all look the same way. And what I want to do is I want to talk about how they look and what you actually have to deal with when an object comes in. So, you know, as you make a sphere or a cube or a flat plane, we can do that by just saying make a flat plane, make a cube. We can just do that easily. But if you're going to make a face of somebody, you've got to either go to a program that makes a face, or you have to buy a face or get one downloaded to you. So what you have now is a file that has stuff in it, and you can say, make this face appear in my program. Well, we have one line of code that does that, and that's in today's lesson. It's just one simple line. It just says, here, bring me this object and this MTL, and bring that in, and I've got it. Then I just move it around and do whatever I want with it. But if you, when you start dealing with those, if the MTL, that's the file that contains the information we need, doesn't quite work right, then you have to kind of figure out, how do I make that work right? I'll tell you the truth. If you go online, and if you actually can write out, if you know how to write the question, you will get the answer from somebody, because everything that you have a problem with MTL or OBJs, somebody else has had the problem, and they've asked it online and they've gotten answers. Or they've got the answer that it can't be done. That's possible too. But believe me, Google does all. Especially in this technical stuff, Google's a master of technical stuff, because all the geeks, they all use it. And it's actually the best place to go for programming kinds of problems. So what I suggest is well, let me just give you a quick lesson on what the situation is with these objects before we get into it. Okay. Now, suppose you go to some program, you buy or create an object, okay, some character or something, and what they give you is, when you have an object, of course, you have all of the things that they have. They have clothes, they have skin color, they have every hair, they have all kinds of stuff. And so basically, you have this object, and you want to get this into your program. You want it to appear in your program. Well, here's what happens. When you create the program or buy it or whatever, it creates three things. Okay. The first thing it creates is what's called an I'm going to call it person. That's the name of the person right here. That's the name of the file. It creates an OBJ file. That's the first thing it creates. An OBJ file is a huge file, which you can look at in Notepad, by the way, if you want to look at it. It's a huge file of numbers. That's all it really has in it, is just a big bunch of numbers. What it is it's the numbers of the locations of all the dots that constitute the character. That's everything's attached to those points. It's the X, Y, Z of those points. It also tells them something else, which I haven't talked about here, but it's very important. If you have a person and they have you know, a body, stuff like that, and if the person has to be seen by light, then each one of those points not only has to be a point, but it has to have what they call a normal to the point. When you have a surface, like this little surface right here, for example, if you put light on that surface, it doesn't know what to do. It has no idea what to do. I'm talking about in the computer, put light on it. So what you have to do is you have to tell it not only where the corners of this point are, the X, Y, Z's of all the corners, this square here, but you also have to tell it what they call the normal. You have to tell it which way is it pointing, what way is this thing pointing, where's the front of it. And once you do that, the electronic system, the computer system that talks about the light falling on this thing can calculate how bright this should be. So in other words, every point that you have also has to have a normal, which is true in this OBJ. That contains the points of all the structure of the thing, and it contains all the normals that point away from it. Each structure has a normal. And so then when you turn the light on in your program, it looks at the normal and says, oh, this should be this much brightness. Or if the light's moved around, it would change the brightness. Because, for example, if a light is pointed straight down right here, these two vectors are almost in the same place, so it would be very, very bright. But if the light was over here, then this vector, the normal vector and the light vector are so far away from each other, almost 90 degrees, that it wouldn't put much light on it. It would calculate very, very dull. You wouldn't get a very bright object. So that's what's located in here, in this thing over here. Then they create another file. Let me see if I have a more specific one here that we can use. It creates another file called person.mtl. Now, the MTL file is a very peculiar thing because what it's concerned about is one simple thing. It's concerned about the clothing over here, the color of the clothing, the thickness of it, the color of the skin, the color of the eyes. It's concerned about all the colors of all these different things. And it's concerned mostly about texture maps, which is the big thing, the texture map. If you have a character and you just color them different colors, you won't look very good. But if you took a picture of my costume here and plastered it onto him right there, you would then have a person that has clothes on because you've taken the texture. If they took a picture of me and took this texture and they glued it onto him, he'd have a texture map on his body, and it would basically look like he had a necktie and all that stuff. That texture map thing is part of the reason why they make this MTL, because it contains not only the colors, but also those texture maps, and knows the names of all the texture maps. This guy over here also knows the names of the texture maps. This guy knows the names of them, this guy knows the names of them right here. But here's what happens. The texture maps, which are just JPEGs usually, or PNG files, that's all they are. You have these texture maps out here, which really, they look very weird. Sometimes they look like this, like that. They got little things on them, they go like that, and a little blurb over here. You look at that texture map and it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's completely baffling. And the reason why is because they'll take this piece over here and project it onto the pants. That's a pair of pants, but you don't know that. But when they project it on, it wraps around, it looks curvy like pants. Then they'll take a little piece over here, and they'll project it on, and they'll make it like, you know, your shirt or something, an object on your shirt. So in other words, the texture maps, when you look at it, you can't tell what they are. They look like chaotic. Because what they've done is they've taken the texture as it would be on your body, and they peeled it off and put it into a JPEG. It's like the Mercator thing. You know, they've always had trouble describing the Earth with a flat map because it's spherical. It's very hard to do that. So what they've done is they've done various ways. They've tried to make the round Earth look like it's flat, but none of them have been very successful. But that's because they can't do what we can do with the computer. With the computer, what we can do is we can stretch things. We can take it and stretch stuff back and forth. So what they can do is, for example, there is a way of making this, and in our programs we do have a sphere it's like maybe the second to last program. It's a sphere projected onto a sphere. So in other words, the image originally was taken by a camera around the room, and then it was calculated into a sphere. So it was like if you were here and that was a sphere all around you, it's calculated like that. So what happens is when you look at this JPEG texture, it really looks weird. It looks like a twisted around room or something like that. But when you project it onto a sphere, it comes back to just like this room. It looks perfect. And that's what I'm about today. It's part of the thing I'm about today. So these texture maps right here, which contain images, have different characteristics, okay? And this thing right here knows those characteristics. This thing knows which texture maps it wants, and this one knows what characteristics it has. So this texture map right here is the third thing that that program produces. It produces the object, which is all of its dots and normals and stuff. It produces the person MTL, which says, take this image and put it onto this object. It tells where the image, where the texture is lays and everything like that. It tells you also how much transparency it should have. And in our program, I can show you how to do that today, but there's a way of talking about this transparency. If you go online and you type in format MTL, it'll give you the entire, everything you ever wanted to know about MTL. The trouble is there's hundreds and hundreds of different variations in the thing, and there are dozens of companies who twist it a little bit, don't make it all the same way. So here's what's happening to us. We have a program-generated character. It makes this file, and we have these text files. We have to take those things, and they all have to go into the CS101 or wherever your program has to go into the program. And then in our program, we call this file and this file right here. It takes care of calling we don't have to call a JPEG because they do that for us. They drag them in for us. So basically, we have to have a way of saying, give me this object and give me its MTL, give me its texture maps or whatever. And that's our job. That's all we have to do. Problem is that they fool around with these things and they aren't all made correctly. They write things a little bit differently. And our program looks at them and says, I don't know what that is, so it doesn't do it right, okay? I fixed a couple of them, but basically I haven't got them all. The eyes I still have to deal with. It's a very complicated problem because they put it in backwards. Had they not put it in at all, I could deal with it, but putting it backwards, that gets a whole different problem. So what I'm going to try to do is, and here's the upshot of this is if you make a stage of some kind, and this is your stage, you can now put a character in here, and that's the whole thing. That's the whole object of it. You can put a character in here with clothes on or without or whatever you want to do, okay? Or more characters. In our program, we're stuck with one character because of the way I wrote it, ineptly. Next semester, you'll be able to put more characters in, and dogs, and cats, and chickens, cows, pigs, turtles, sharks, all the rest of the stuff. So let me go online and talk about this from the online perspective, okay? Give me a second here. Actually, that looks curiously like something we might be able to do. We can actually create that. Let me just get everything in position here. Okay. The first program here is a webcam program. You can project a webcam onto a flat surface, or a cylinder, or a sphere. Okay, your webcam can project on any of those. And there's a program in this section above that shows you how to do those things. But I'm going to make a list of them. I haven't made a list yet, but putting them online. The programs are actually here. You can see them and you can figure out how to do it. The whole question is, when you write the script line originally to say, make this image go into a sphere or a cylinder or whatever, that line right there has to be written exactly as the instructions, because each object has not only do you have a plane, but you have a plane with a video or a plane with a webcam and a plane with nothing. So basically, it's just texture. So basically, you can have texture on it, a video on it, or a webcam on it. And so there's three different kinds of calls you have to make to get each one of those things, okay? This one right here. Sorry, Beethoven. No, it's Mozart. It's a double piano concerto. That's supposed to be a piece of music if you guys want to increase your spatial relationships. That music, apparently, someone did a study and they found that if you listen to that music, you can do spatial relations better. Very interesting. Okay, here's the room. Now this room right here looks square, doesn't it? I mean, it has, and I can look up and down. Look down the things I can look up. But in fact, this room is projected onto a sphere. We're in the room, but because of the way the calculations have been done to make it look square, they've created it so that it actually looks square. What they've done is they've stretched everything so that it looks proper. And this is one of the cheapest ways of getting a three-dimensional world. And here's normally how this is used. Suppose you wanted to build a rifle range. You wanted to build a rifle range, and you wanted to have scenery around it. Okay, so you would build like the rifle range with the targets and little boxes and stuff like that with people standing and everything like that. But then you could have this giant sphere around the whole thing, and that sphere would have mountains and whatever. It would have the ambient, the background scenery, and so it would look perfectly good because it would be reconstructed by the camera to look exactly like what it looks like rather than some stretched form of the thing. Okay, so in other words, it would be this right here. This right here is only, I only made it a little, maybe 5 or 10 out. But if this was like 100 out, we would be moving, as if this was the edge of the universe. And that's what you do in outdoor scenes. You have to do it differently. The radius of the sphere is the only thing you need to determine how much space you have inside of it. It still looks the same. It doesn't change its looks at all. But I will tell you one thing. If you look at this picture right here, notice that it's a little bit fuzzy. It isn't really as good as it should be. The reason for that is because in order to speed the thing up, I took the original picture, which was enormous, and I stretched it down to less pixels, like 512 or something like that, 512 and 256. So I brought it down to small size. So when it stretches it onto this big thing, it fuzzes it up a bit. The ideal thing, if you want something to look really good, is to use the biggest picture you can get, which is like 1,000 or 2,000 on one side. And when you get that, you're going to get a perfect background. Now, you might think that's going to take a lot of computer time. It only takes computer time when it loads. That's the only time it takes time. Once it's in there, no problem. It'll move just as fast as anything else. Here's what they've done. It's different than the old days. In the old days, when they tried to do web pages online with three-dimensional graphics, it would stutter. It wouldn't even hardly move. The old days being like 5 years ago, and you just couldn't get anything to work right. But what they do now is all of the graphic stuff goes onto the graphics board in your computer. So your computer is actually doing all the work for it. And that's what makes all the difference. Now they can do things much faster than they ever could have done before. And that's why things have improved quite a bit. Anyway, so that's the use of a sphere. That's how you get a sphere. And you can't get out of here, by the way. I set it up so you back up, you're going to hit the wall. All I simply said was, if you exceed the radius in any direction, X or Z, just don't let us go there. Actually, I think I did it a different way. I calculated a distance. I said square X, square Z, take the root of it. If that distance exceeds the radius, don't let us out of this box. Just stop us right there. So it's sort of a fake barrier, okay? I can show you the code. I should probably do that to be much more sensible. I got to bring it up really big because this I failed at this last time. And bring it over here. Okay, this is the code here. If you this is the that's just the music. And by the way, I have to tell you another thing. All the music I use is open source. I get it from places where they let you copy it. So I don't copy music that's illegal. So this right here was from a site that said it was free Mozart. There are a lot of piano players that do that. They don't care, you know. They're practicing or something. Let's get down here. So all the music stuff is just the regular audio. That's the same way as I do it. And what I did is, by the way, I started it off by having this little function that says play it, and then down the body, wherever the body is down here. Well, it's a huge program. It looks big, but it isn't as bad as it. See, it says play it. I jump to play it. So the body has to start everything off. The first thing it does is it starts off my mouse control and key control. It starts off that by going to startup. And then what it does is it turns on the music, says play the music, and then it goes to the render function, which is going to start drawing the stuff I have in there. So in other words, one after the other, these are taken care of by the body. There is another way of doing this, by the way, and I haven't shown it to you because it's kind of a technicality, but it is possible to set up these three guys so that when the program loads, they automatically do it. The body doesn't have to tell it to do it. It automatically takes place as soon as it starts. I haven't given you that because there's a little bit of code in there I don't like the looks of, so I haven't done that. I said, this is much easier. Then you're specifically saying, start the key to monitor the keyboard, start to play the music, and then start to render the objects. You're actually telling it what to do. You keep total control over it. Okay? This down here is a sphere. All the sphere has is its radius. I set it at 4. 32 are the longitude, latitude things that hold the sphere together. And the panorama.jpg is a picture, which you could download, by the way, from my folder if you want, which is a picture of the scene you just saw. Okay? And what that does is it gives you the scene. Now, I have to tell you, the instructions in this from these guys that write threejs are to always keep your pictures 128 by 256 or 512 by 1024, multiples of 2. It turns out that isn't true. They work perfectly good at any size. So if you get a picture that's really big, just bring it in and use it. Don't try to stretch it to the right size. That fuzzes it up. Question?
So if we wanted to use a different, create our own 3D world or whatever, or outside nature or anything, instead of panorama.jpg, we could just find any picture online, right? Any big.
If it wasn't panoramic, like it wasn't spherical?
Well, like, wouldn't all these commands make any picture kind of go into a sphere like that? Like if you took a picture of.
Oh, sure. You mean like the panels will take any picture you want to put on them. But here's the problem. There are pictures that are made special for this. What they do is they took a flat picture in this direction, a flat picture in that direction, and what you do is you can put those textures on each wall, and it looks like you're outdoors.
Okay.
But they have to be distorted in a certain way.
Okay.
In other words, they're already what you do is look for, let's see, how about maybe light box, or I think the word would be box. Let me think. Give me a minute to think about what they used to call those things. But they're still out there. You can actually get a world with all kinds of things around you and put them onto a box, and it looks like you're in the world just the same way.
Yeah. Because
they made the corners distorted so that it looks correct. I did it with a sphere simply because I haven't. That's the easiest way. You got one picture, you throw it on the sphere, and you got it. It's all done. Okay. Yeah. There is a disadvantage of the sphere though, because if you look down at the ground, your eyes sort of floating a little bit. You're never quite on the floor. That's kind of a weird thing. If you look down and see your shoes are sort of like a couple of inches above the floor.
So if I found a picture of a forest, I just typed in a picture of a forest, saved it as a JPEG, I could put it into this same program essentially, and it would put it onto the sphere, right? And
you could do that, but here's what the problem with that one would be. If you put an object in the sphere, it distorts on the bottom.
Oh, okay.
Okay, what they've done when they took the original picture in of that room is they fixed the distortion, so when you put it in, it unfixes it. It looks perfectly good again. So they stored it a certain way. If you want to get pictures like that, look up panoramic pictures. Panorama pictures, 360 pictures. That's another one. They say it that way. So Google will find you what you need. Be careful though. There's a bunch of people out there who say free picture. Then when you go in, they try to scam you for money right away. You know, there's always that. You got to watch out. All that stuff's always going on. But in this case right here, all I'm doing is drawing a sphere. See, it says make the ball. That's all it does, and it just puts everything zero. It just draws it. And the ball I made is this one right here. So I say planet equals new. When I do that, this script right here is what creates the sphere, creates the picture on it. So planet equals new sphere is what creates the sphere, a radius of 4. That's all there is to making a sphere. There's nothing else to it. You can make as many spheres as you want, by the way. Another thing you can do if you want to, you could take spheres, you could put them together in different ways, like, and have different, like, spherical universes you went to. For example, you could be outdoors, walk through this hole right here, and then you're indoors, and it's all perfectly indoory like it's supposed to look, because you got two panoramics working. I haven't shown you how to make transparencies yet. We'll never get to that. But anyway, that's that one, and that's what we do there. Let's go back here. I'll get out of this thing. Go to the next picture. Maybe. Okay, what I did then was, I made this one here. Now this is the kind of a simple program. Even says it's simple. You kid around. This program here is just a plane, and you use the arrow keys to rotate things around. And the reason why I made this thing is because it is the simplest of all programs you can possibly make with texture on. It's just a flat plane, and you can put any picture on it you want. It puts the picture, glue it right on it. So this is just a way to make a wall, for example, like you were saying. If you put the forest on this right here, it would look like a forest, like a picture of a forest. And then if you made another plane, it was like at the end of it, like over here at the end of the thing, you could put another forest on that, glue them together, they would look like a forest. It would look pretty good. You can actually do that stuff pretty well if you pick your pictures correctly. But like I say, if you go to a place where they've already done that for you, they've already fixed the forest so that it looks like it's glued together. That's much nicer because then you don't have any corners or anything. It just looks just right. I think it's called a skybox. That's the magic word, skybox. Okay. Yeah. They don't do it much anymore, but it's still around. Okay. This one over here. This is something you should know about. This is from the old days. I dropped back here, but this is from the old days. And this when we're doing this thing. The one thing you should know about when you're going to the final is this. Is that if you have an object you want to continue to rotate on its own without you telling it to do anything, you have to put that plus sign in right there. The plus sign makes all the difference. If you put equals just 0.01, it'll rotate to the 0.01 position and it'll just stay there. It won't do anything. If you put that plus sign in, every time it hits the render function, it'll push it 0.04 more, 0.1 more. Okay, well, 1.1, 0.1, 0.1, and it rotates. It makes it rotate. So that's where rotation occurs, is with that plus sign right there, okay? You put the plus sign on the other side, like right here, I put the minus on this side. That doesn't do anything. That just takes the thing and rotates it to -5 and leaves it there. Puts it on an angle and doesn't do anything else to it, okay? So this is what makes it rotate around the -5 just moves it to the left position a little bit and leaves it there. It doesn't do anything to it. It's not the center exactly, it's a little bit off to the left. It's going to -5. And this is just making a cube, that's all it is. You name the cube, 20, 20 is in 1. It's 3 dimensions to a cube, 1's 20, 1's 20 is 1. Now, when we first started off, this was how I made a flat plane. And by the way, let me explain why I did it that way. There was a good reason. When you make a plane, the image that you put on the front of the plane, if you go behind it, you can see the image over there in the back side, see? So in other words, the plane shows you the same image on both sides, backwards and frontwards. If you were building a little house and you made it out of planes, the problem was that whatever you put inside the house would show outside. So if you put bathroom fixtures, they'd be showing outside as well because they're on the plane. But by making it as little cubes, the way we did originally, you can put one picture on this side and a different picture on that side, and you've got the inside of the house and the outside of the house. So just by making a little thin cube, you can accomplish getting both pictures on there. To do that with a plane is not so easy. Okay, very easy with a little cube. So that's the reason why I gave it to you originally with 2021. This right here, you could make a plane out of this. If there was no outside to it, I could have made a plane out of this, and that's all I'd have is a plane. That would have taken care of it, okay? But as it is, it's really just a little flat cube is what it really is. All right. Hang on. There's a movie here. This video right here tells you how to use the character creating program. And here's the program. I think I put them in here. Let's see if I did. I think I did. Hopefully, I did. When you move a character into a scene, initially it opens up very slowly. What I suggest you do is this. If you were to use you have a three-dimensional world where you're going to move a character into it, the ideal thing to do is to have some kind of a, like in a theater, they have the curtain closed, and while the curtain's closed, the actors get all lined up, they get ready to go, and then the curtain opens. It's exactly the same thing. When the pictures are being downloaded to your computer, and when they're downloading these extremely big, hefty objects, like these objects have lots of points in them, so there's tens of thousands of points coming down to your computer, that takes a little bit of time. So the thing is, while that's going on, you should have some kind of a curtain arrangement, something that says, in a few seconds we'll open up or something like that, something to hold to show up. You would do that right at the on load. You do that right at the beginning. Have something that hesitates. It would go up to a function, and that function would hesitate while everything's loading. And there's a way to preload, which I'll tell you next time when we'll get into the preload. Basically, you say preload everything while we're watching this other thing. So you're watching this thing and saying it's loading up, and it's loading up. And it finally says, okay, it's loaded, open the curtain, and here's the show, okay? Because otherwise people get impatient. You see a white screen, they don't know what to do. But you will see a white screen in ours because we have no prelude to the thing. This is the character right here. You can see he doesn't look too bad if you keep it at a fair distance. But when you move up closer, you can see that the materials begin to lose their, see how it gets all broken up into triangles. Because that's how he's really made. Look at his arm. It's just a bunch of triangles, that's all it is. And by the way, in this one you can really see how the lighting works on this thing. Because this line of things right here is pointed right at the light, so therefore the calculation between the normal and the light source gives you a very bright surface. But down here, the light's coming from up here, and it's not giving you the normals this way, and the light's coming from, so therefore you get a big 90 degrees, so it's its own putting light on that surface. So what it does is it constructs the light graduating across his shape as he goes back and forth here. Another thing that's good is his hair. His hair turned out to be, I can look at him, sorry. Down here. I think I can. Well, I don't have it here for some reason. I thought I did that. Okay, here's his hair. His hair isn't that bad, really. It's pretty good. Now, there's something about his hair I want you to know that you don't see. What they did to make the hair is they took this piece of it looks like a piece of cloth, but what it really is a structure, a little piece of structure with points on it, and they put it on his head. It would look like he would have like some kind of a thing on his head, like cloth on his head. And then what they did is they took the hair and they glued it computer-wise onto that cloth. And then what happens is the MTL file says make the cloth invisible. And so the cloth becomes invisible and the hair still shows. Now the reason why they do that is because when you put hair on somebody and they move their head around, the hair would stay in the same place. So they have to make a hierarchical thing. And the hair is just a picture. That's all it is a picture. So they said, okay, we can't make the picture hierarchical, but what we can do is we can put this cloth down, And we can make that hierarchical, we can add it to the body, so when the head moves, the cloth will move also. And then we'll put the picture of hair on that cloth. And the question then is, how do we get the cloth out of sight? The way they get the cloth out of sight is they make it transparent. They can actually, the program can actually say, make that cloth transparent. That's one of the things the MTL file does. It says, make this transparent. So what they do is, the hair stays there because that's the image that's plastered onto the cloth, but the cloth itself is made invisible, so you can't see it anymore. And so if you looked at this thing and it's real, if you really looked at it, you know, and it's rawness, you'd see this great big funny piece of cloth down over his head and on his neck, but it doesn't show. And that's true of anything where there's transparency involved in it, where you don't want the object holding the image to show. You just want the image itself to show. So what you do is you can say, make the surface invisible, and then you only see the picture, you don't see anything else. And that's what MTL does for you. It helps that to happen. But you can see, if you keep this character at a distance, by the way, you can have them in any pose. They have them standing up, flipping over, fighting. They have all poses that you want. And different clothing, too. You can put any kind of clothes on you want to put on them. And you can have female, you can have woman, you can have children, you can have old geezers, you can have anything. You can just build the character you want and bring it into the program, you got it, okay? And that's it. So that's pretty much what I did this week. I think I have one more program here. No, that's it, that is the program. And that's it. That's all I really want to show you. I'm gonna, by next time I hope to have another little addition to this. But I'm pretty much at the end. There's not much more that I can give you that I can actually accomplish in the short time we have. We have this week and next week is it. That's it. So what I'll do is, next week we get 2 days, I'll do a 2-day review, and get your projects in if you haven't got them in. And then next week we'll do a review, and then the week after that is the final, and the course is over. You can do whatever you want to do. So I'll be here for a while for people. Some people need some stuff, so I'll be here for a little bit after this. See you Thursday.